Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a pleasure and honor to present some of our ideas about what we do in VIAVI Solutions. It's a little bit different topic than the previous presentations. We talk a little bit more about telecommunication. And I'm going to show a little bit of a video that maybe give you a background on what I'm going to be talking about and what VIAVI actually does.
By 2025, the amount of data we generate is expected to grow to 175 zettabytes. That's 150 times more bytes of data than stars in the observable universe. It's at this stage of massive data explosion and the exponential growth of computing power that AI begins to flourish. You might have seen AI in your daily life, but in our hyper-connected world, AI is also a silent force that ensures seamless communication. Today, instant connectivity is a ubiquitous part of life, but beneath the surface lies a puzzle of immense complexity, a series of interconnected networks that constantly evolve. AI's powerful algorithm, intelligence, and predictive power serve as the catalyst for tomorrow's highly automated, zero-touch networks. Users throughout a network ecosystem can leverage AI to streamline network management, reduce operational costs, and ensure agility and reliability. Thanks to rapid detection of network issues and self-healing mechanisms, as well as automatic configuration and optimization. In addition, through the use of digital twins, complex networks can be deployed with minimal risk. Not only can configurations be optimized, tested, and certified before any real-world deployment, but historical data and machine learning scenarios mimicking real environments can be leveraged to predict the effects of configurations on end-user services. AI ensures that as the network grows, it can adapt and expand without significant manual intervention. New devices and services can be added to the network seamlessly, giving rise to complex, demanding, and ultra-low latency applications that will change the way we live and work. From AI optimizing AI to digital twins, VIAVI cutting-edge solutions ensure a seamless and secure digital experience for all. What will AI unlock next? Let's find out and advance boldly together.
So, for some of you who don't know who VIAVI solution is, we used to be called JDSU. We have been in business for over 100 years. In fact, we are, since the beginning of even the Marconi lab is part of what VIAVI does. We think about us as the test and measurements for the network, right? Anything that has to do with telecommunication network since its beginning, VIAVI has been involved in testing it. And last year, actually, we celebrated being 100 years in business, right? One of the oldest companies there. And I was giving a presentation, I was asked, what do you think what's going to happen in the next, not 100 years from now, but at least the next 10, 15 years. And in the telecom business, we see 4 major transformations that's happening. For some of you are familiar with the traditional communication where you had, just a copper wire coming into your house. Everything right now is moving towards optical. And it was very interesting that we talk about electronics and so on, but one of the major evolution that is coming in the telecom business is optical, communication photonic network, actually, where there is no electronic components at all, right? So that's one of the major advantage that we're going to be seeing in the next few years. The other thing, of course, we will all have phones and other devices. We are seeing the 4G, 5G, and now we're talking about 6G, and some people say, well, why are you talking about 6G? One of the things that VIAVI does is that when technology comes, there is a lot of need for testing. Even to know that it's going to work, required that you test it. So some of the things that doesn't work still needs to be tested, right? So we get involved much earlier. But one other things that has really changed fundamentally in the telecom business is this concept of AI and automation. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that. And eventually, traditional network has been building, these base station antennas and all of this hardware. But we have been seeing it recently that is moving towards software. The network becomes more a programmable software that is running the network, right? So I'm giving you a picture here. It's a little bit technical, but for the last 100 years, this is how a network looked like. Any network you think of, wireless network, wireline network, fiber network, copper network, coax, cable, they all have been stitched together like this. And in every line of this, VIAVI has a lot of products that test that, every line, right? But in the last 5 years, we have seen a big transformation, that the network itself is not anymore these wires. It's becoming more software running in the cloud. And that's a big transformation, because now even testing and how to know that the network is performing has to fundamentally change. So if you think about who is using the network today, we are familiar, yes, at home, I got an internet, or we have now our phones, but there is also a big transformation of who's using the network, who's using the wireless network. It's becoming now more important to look at, the enterprise. We are seeing new use cases for using the network. For example, the automotive industry itself is changing. It's becoming more using the network for autonomous driving, for assisted driving, and a lot of the network capabilities with low latency is required for that. A lot of other industry that we are all depending on, like aviation, for example. A lot of the aviation industry today depend on wireless communications for maintenance, for support at the airports, for doing a lot of this automation. And of course, we are also seeing the whole Industry 6.0 that is coming. Talk about Port Authority, it's becoming all automated, right, with low latency application require very high precision, location intelligence, and telecommunication applications. So this is changing who is using the network. It's not us anymore. Actually, it's predicted by 2030, the most use of the network is going to be by sensors, not by people, right? And that brings another thing. We always think about network, fiber, cable, 5G, but there is now more, move towards a non-terrestrial network, like having satellite communication. And another very important thing I'm going to spend some time on, and especially here in the Philippines right now, the whole concept of open network, open radio access network, not anymore just focus on 4 or 5 vendors that providing the network, opening up for everybody can actually build an application on the network and run part of the network itself. So I'm going to spend some time on that, which we call the open radio access network, Open RAN. Traditional radio access network has been developed by, in the last 20 years by 5 major providers in the world, right? Only 5. With Open RAN, we're opening it up. We're allowing other people to be able to create part of the network. And eventually, the radio access network will become more of a software. You will be able to write a software that communicate how a sensor can actually be more energy efficient, have less interference, can actually create more application on the network itself. So think about the network becoming like an iOS, and you build application on it, right? So that's what we call the Open RAN. And we have been working with a lot of different parties in Philippines here to actually build the first Open RAN lab testing so that people can innovate and bring in a lot of technologies into Open RAN. And of course, the core of the network has already moved to cloud. One of the things I want you to understand is that the network that I showed you at the beginning, where all these wires, becomes more programmable, because the idea is if I have a new kind of a network that I need to create for automotive industry, for shopping, for anything like this, we create something inside the network we call a slice. So instead of stitching it together by connecting wires, it actually becomes a programmable where on the fly, you will be able to configure this software and create a slice of the network for a particular application. That's very powerful, because now you can bring in new services into the network in matters of hours, not in matters of years, right? That's a big transformation in the network industry, right? Now, what VIAVI does, we actually do 4 main important things in the telecommunication. One is from the time you think about a new network, like say 5G or 6G, in the lab, you need to test it, right? And we provide a lot of testing. So when we did the first 5G, there was no 5G device. Apple didn't have the 5G device or Android. We actually had to emulate 5G devices. We have to emulate, now we are emulating cars talking to cars, or cars talking to drones, or drones. So we have to do a lot of this emulation in the lab. And now we're introducing more and more AI to actually do this kind of emulation to be more adaptive to the scenarios, because some of these emulations sometimes are using synthetic data. Now we're actually using more real data and creating more realistic behavior in the lab, right? And also, AI is becoming part of the network. But think about this, who's testing the AI? Who's saying that this AI is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing? That's another part of what VIAVI is doing, is we're actually building AI that is testing the AI. You know, it's funny, but it's almost saying, I do not want to go to a gunfight with a knife, right? You want to go a gunfight, you have to bring a gun as well. So you want to test AI, you have to create AI to test AI, right? The other very important thing is that the network is becoming really complex. So for installing the network, think about this. You know, I tell you some number. 85% of the base station, the antennas and base station of 5G has been tested by VIAVI in some way, right? But installing it takes a lot of effort and requires a lot of complex requirements, and it takes time. So we're also introducing a lot of AI capabilities in the installation. The idea is you can send what I call an Uber technician to actually install an antenna. And the antenna is going to actually be the installation will be very human-friendly using AI, natural language processing, so they can actually ask, how can I install an antenna, right? How I can, what is the coverage in this area? What do I do next? Oh, I'm not seeing the beam forming. How can I fix that? So we're making now the installation itself very simple and very automated using AI. Now, you're installing the network, but this is not it. You know, similar to the discussion about the power grid in the morning, you need to monitor. I always say you could not create more efficiency if you're not measuring. You need to measure so that you can actually optimize. So we provide a lot of tools for measuring and optimization. And again, AI plays a very important role in predictive analytics and actually doing self-healing mechanism. That's the third part is we actually have the network, configure itself, but also fix itself, right? So this is the four things that VIAVI does. Testing in the lab, helping the installation, doing measuring and monitoring, and also doing optimization and self-healing, right? So quickly, I'll go into another very important thing. What this digital twin? Now, in the morning, we heard about digital twin for the power industry. There is another digital twin we need for the telecom industry. Specifically, if you want to test different components, we can create an environment that is similar to a real network, right? And you can actually go and do testing. But what we also provide, and this is important for students that are here, is that we can create this digital twin of a network for you to actually build an application. Think about you want to build a new application, but you don't want to go to a big network and say, I want to test it now on scale. We actually provide you with a digital twin similar to an actual network with 80 million subscribers, with cars and drones, just access to your computer, and you can actually test your application there. So this is a very powerful thing that helps in the innovation. We want to encourage people to have more innovation, right? And that's where recently, and working with our partners here in the Philippines, we have built a lab in the United States where we can actually access a lot of these digital twin and build your application. We call this the Valor Lab. And in this example here, I will show you what we do with this Valor Lab. So you can actually I'm going to design a new telecom idea, a new standard. How can I test that? Traditionally, you want to build a lab and bring in a lot of equipment that are very expensive, right? And you have to test it. But now we are building a virtual lab where you can come and say, oh, these components that I need, I can actually log in, right? And build a virtual lab, almost like a augmented reality lab, where you can actually do all your software testing from this lab. And we are giving access to a lot of university for this Valor Lab, so you can actually access it from here, from the Philippines. You can log in and actually test a lot of your components. And we actually also provide, virtual assistants. So there will be actual people who can help you, load your software and actually test these components. We call this the Valor Lab. And this actually is a new idea of testing some of these components without having to buy, a lot of the equipment. So, there is a lot of different applications for that. We'll talk about energy efficiency. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I just wanted to introduce some of the things that these capabilities will be coming here in Philippines. We are actually working with a lot of different organizations here to build a similar digital twin in the Philippines here. So again, I know that I don't have enough time for that, and I know everybody is hungry probably to go for lunch, but hopefully this gives you a little bit of indication what VIAVI does. Thank you so much.
Another round of applause for Dr. Yamany. And may we call again on the stage UPEEI Director Lou Tria to present to Dr. Yamany our Certificate of Appreciation and Token for today's talk.